Hello and welcome to Facebook Live, hosted by BAL Tiling. My name is Dave Rowley and I'm the Training and Technical Support Manager. And today's topic is movement joints, or it can be also known as expansion joints. What we want to cover over the next session, or this session, is actually about why do we use movement joints? What's the need? But also, where would you place them? What sort of thicknesses do you need to consider with movement joints? But also, one of the biggest things I want to announce as well, we've actually got a new sealant called Micromax Grout-Effect Sealant. This is also going to be something I want to talk to you about because you have problems sometimes with regards to your customers being able to have expansion joints. You explain to them they need them, but the customer at the end says, I don't want them. With the new Grout-Effect Sealant, this actually allows you to be able to have the expansion joints, but also from the view and the appearance to look like a grout. So, first of all, what are movement joints? Movement joints are designed to provide expansion and movement within the floor itself. Typically, expansion joints are not just used in wall and floor tiling or internal or external. It's used in common construction as well, from bricklaying. With screeds, you need to be looking at putting around the perimeters before you pump your screeds in, through doorways, and this is actually exactly the same with tiling. You need to follow these expansion joints through to the tile finish. But also with a lot of these pumpable screeds, you don't need as many expansion joints. But this doesn't mean that you have to put them in the tiling. You do. And there's actually set amounts of meters, linear meters, as far as where you put them. So, with regards to expansion joints, if you don't put them in, you'll see the image now as far as grout cracking. This is actually apparent. You see this all the time when you're going in from job to job, project to project, the fact that the grout cracks, not just in the corners, but where wall meets floor, or where there's actually movement in the floor itself. And that doesn't actually look good, but also potentially it is a failure. But it can actually be worse than that. Grout cracking is one thing, but if there's actually excessive amount of movement, and particularly now with the fact we have a lot more underfloor heating, this is actually even more crucial. And also now tiles are getting bigger in size, fewer joints. The fact is there's actually more potential risk of tiles actually tenting and lifting, which you can also see from the image as well. These are problematic issues, and the problem is customers want the job done right, but also have the look as well. With our new grout sealant, our Grout-Effect Sealant, this actually provides you all the ability to provide the expansion, but also the ability to give the customer the look that they really want. So, silicons themselves are one method of used as an expansion material. You can have profile movement joints, and that is still required in certainly very much more commercial type of projects. But for domestic, light commercial areas, where you've not got any sort of foot traffic like forklift trucks or trolleys or things like that, a sealant is actually the best thing to use, providing that seamless finish. So, with regards to where you put expansion joints need to be in all perimeters of floors. So where you've got adjacent walls, there's going to be expansion. You need something for those tiles to give and move. So around the perimeter of a floor, but also remember this needs to be followed through any doorways. That's even if you're tiling into different rooms. You also need to put expansion joints in internal corners in wall tiling, but also where there's actually any structural movement joint in the floor or the wall. So if there's actually a movement joint in the wall or the floor, that needs to be followed through at that point, not at the point where the nearest joint is. So consider when you're setting out, if there is a construction joint in the floor, maybe consider also thinking about setting out from those construction joints to provide the joint actually falling at the point where the construction meets below. But also, what you've got to consider also is where there's no expansion joints in the subfloor, you've got a nice open room, you've done the perimeters or the internal corners on a wall, you need to consider wall tiling, internally this is, all this is all internal, is you need to be looking at every 3 to 4.5 metres. That's both horizontally and vertically as well. So if the wall is actually greater than 4.5 metres in length, therefore you need to start considering one down the middle. On floors, where there's no heat involved, that's electric underfloor heating or heated screeds, you can actually put expansion joints providing around the perimeter, but at bay areas no more than 10 metres in length. Again, if it's greater than that, you need to consider additional movement joints in the tile installation. With regards to external tiling, then because we're now doing a lot more external tiling as well, expansion joints should be at 3 metres, but also if you're using darker colour tiles, because these actually generate a lot more heat within the tile and retain the heat for a lot longer, you need to consider reducing those areas from 3 metres down to 2.5 or even less than that in cases, depending on where the direct sunlight is obviously going as well. With regards to movement joints, generally speaking, movement joints should be a minimum of 6 mil in width, but always consider if you're doing construction joints, if the construction joint in the floor or the wall is greater than 6 mil, you then need to make sure the width of the expansion joint is equal to the actual width of the construction joint. You can't go smaller, you go equal or bigger. With regards to now the type of materials, obviously there's profile movement joints, but what I want to talk about today is sealants. Sealants themselves have been used and obviously used for general around sandwich wear and that type of thing, but the look of them are quite shiny. As an expansion material, because it provides the expansion itself, the look of it being shiny can sometimes put people off. But from your perspective, to protect you and your customers, they need to be put in. Otherwise, grout can crack or tiles can actually lift or fall off, depending on if it's wall or floor, as you saw in the images earlier. So what we've actually done, as from now, we've actually launched a Grout-Effect Micromax Sealant. In the colour ranges of our Micromax 3, you can see the pop-up behind. Full host of colours. There's some of the only colours that they aren't available in is the more pastel type of colours. But for everyday colours, schemes, from your greys to your whites to your jasmines to your browns, they're actually available. And this is providing the seamless approach. But enough of me talking. The best thing to do is let's see and show you what a traditional sealant looks like, which you know from day-to-day applications, and then show you that against the new Grout-Effect Micromax Sealant. Let's have a look. So this is a traditional sealant. And obviously, you'll notice even when you gun it out, you can actually see the shine of the actual sealant, and that doesn't actually change when it's dry. Now we have the Micromax Grout-Effect Sealant. The colour is obviously described at the bottom. Put it into your caulking gun again. And as you can see, I'm going to place this right next to it, and you'll see a massive difference. So you can see there, this is actually the traditional sealant, and this is actually the now Grout-Effect Sealant. There's no glare, no shine on it. It mirrors the actual Micromax grout itself. So therefore a seamless floor, but also providing the expansion materials required at those areas. So when you're doing intermediate joints, always use a good quality tape. You can use masking tape, but also I've got here is actually a sort of a masking tape, duct tape type of product. Just make sure that you actually physically apply the tape at either side of the actual joint itself. The important bit here is also cut the actual nozzle on a slight angle, but also to require thickness for the bead you're going to be filling. And literally, the tape then actually protects the tiles and allows you to gun the material into the joint. Now the bead itself, you can leave that exposed now for about 10 minutes or so, depending on temperature. If you start leaving it longer than that, after 10 to 15 minutes, it can start to skin over, and that will obviously make it more difficult to smooth out the sealant itself. Now the important bit with this itself is that you use a lubricant. Do not use saliva, so don't pop your finger in your mouth, but literally, and also the tool that you use is you actually use a silicone tool. Make sure you've actually got your lubricant on there, and then literally apply that over the surface. Even stroke across. So once you've actually smoothed out the sealant itself, again, you pull the tape away. Do not keep applying or smoothing over the surface continuously. The reason for this, the actual product itself, it's got sand in it. So if you continue to smooth over 3-4 times, you can actually push the actual sand that's in the actual sealant to the bottom of or below the surface, which then can start creating more of a shine on the surface. It won't be as shiny as traditional sealants, but you start losing that effect. So apply it, smooth over once, and then afterwards, taking the tape, pull the tape from the actual tile, but also don't pull it up, pull it to the side, so you actually ensure you don't tear the sealant. And then the same on the other side. Like so.
And action.
So you can see, now you pull the tape away, you actually get a nice uniform matte type of effect, but also looking like a grout. And that provides the seamless approach, because a lot of customers don't want that shiny, unsightly joints. This actually matches in with the BAL Micromax 3 Eco grouts. So that's the BAL Micromax Grout-Effect Sealant. What you now have is a sealant that now looks like a grout, but also have the feature and benefits of our traditional Micromax sealant. So you've actually got the microban, which actually inhibits the growth of things like E. coli, salmonella, listeria, mold, mildew, and obviously the main thing for customers is the look, and that's also black mold. With the Micromax sealant, also what you can use with this is it can go up to 25mm in width in joints. Always remember, when you're filling a expansion joint, if the depth is quite deep, it's always good to actually put a foam strip in, or like a foam rod, and then you're only putting a minimum of 6mm in thickness by 6, if that is the intended joint expansion joint. So never fill the full depth of a joint, because that can actually stop the expansion and movement as well. And also, it's about saving cost. Also, what this can do is not just for internal, it can also be used for external applications as well, up against drainage, your drainage areas, but also, thinking about it, with a lot of external tiling as well that we're now fixing, is we need to put these expansion joints at 3 meters or closer together if it's darker color tiles. Using the Micromax Grout-Effect Sealant as a jointing material as well, this actually then provides the expansion throughout the whole of the floor. You therefore haven't got to put any additional expansion joints in, and also it's a bit more resistant with regards to jet washing, that type of thing, compared to other types of materials on the market. With this also in mind is it will dry in 24 hours. That is actually at a 3mm in depth. So consider if you're doing anything a lot thicker in depth, then you may need to consider waiting for it to dry for longer. And that obviously sits in line with standards with certain things like shower areas, where you need to leave it in the British standards, BS 5385, part 1, is you need to make sure that the shower is not put into service for a minimum of 2 weeks. That is obviously applicable very much for commercial applications, but even so, you need to let everything to dry out. So that concludes the actual demonstration and also Facebook Live from regards to the movement joints. What I also got you as well is it's actually something that will be very useful for you. We have had now a reward scheme called Giftbacks. Giftbacks is actually an app that you download, and literally all you need to do is physically take a photo of your receipt or upload the invoice. Once you've done that, the app will work out all the points, and it doesn't matter if you've got other things on like towel trims or tiles or whatever. It will only pick up the Ardex or BAL products, and what you can actually do is you'll actually get points on your app, saving them up. You can save them up to 12 months, and literally you can actually spend the points by going to the spend button, get a code that comes through on your text message on a Friday, go to your local cash machine, ATM, that's pinless. You put in that code that was sent to you, and it will actually draw the cash out without any bank details or anything like that. But also, one of the things we've actually got with the new launch of the Micromax Sealant Grout-Effect is if you actually purchase that and put that onto Giftbacks, you'll get double points up until the end of September. But also, because it complements the BAL Micromax 3 Eco Grout, if you purchase Micromax 3 and the sealant to go with it, you get double points on both, right up till the end of September. So remember, download the app. If you need further information, contact your local technical support manager or your local BAL representative. They will give you a code also, which will give you points on registering, but also take the opportunity, because that offer is only going to be limited up until the end of September. But also we will bring in other offers in future as well with Giftbacks. Thank you so much for listening. I hope it's been useful. And if you need any further support, please come back to us anytime. Goodbye.